Hey YouTubers, Mark Robb of it. As this video is for people who are unlucky. They have a car where their lights in the front are working, but in the back, their hazard lights don't work, and their turn signals don't work, and their brake lights don't work. I'm going to also have an answer for people who have lights that work in the front, and the brake lights work in the back, but the hazards don't work, and the turn signals don't work. So let's start off first with the group that has nothing working in the back. So the first thing you want to do, out of about 8 different things we're going to go over, is check the bulbs. Not just look at them. Obviously you want to look at them, make sure they're not broken. You see the filaments are not intact, or they're discolored, or they're burnt. That's obvious, but you want to get your voltmeter out, because you can't just look at a bulb and tell for sure if it's working or not. And also sometimes you have a bulb where the filament, it has 2 filaments, and one of them is working, and maybe your brake light's working, but it's not working for your hazard or your turn signal. So just by looking at it, you really can't tell. I mean, unless it's obviously discolored or burnt, or you see it's broken inside, and you know it needs replaced. But you really need to get your voltmeter out and check. And if you don't know how to use a voltmeter or check your bulbs in your socket and so on, there's videos on YouTube where you can find out. But that's the first thing you want to do, because obviously if stuff's working in the front, not working in the back, you want to check stuff in the back. And the first thing is check your bulbs. The second thing you want to do is you want to check your sockets. Make sure it's not corroded or rusted. If they're dirty, there's like 5 different cleaners you can get. This is my favorite, the CRC, the electronic cleaner. You can use it on plastics. The only thing is, I learned recently, you shouldn't use cleaner if you have power to the circuit. So you probably should, even though I never did it, I didn't know I should have done it, but you should disconnect your battery, because if you have a short, this could cause a connection when you add the liquid to it. And you have nowadays with cars, you have really minute amounts of voltage to operate different parts of your car electrical system. So you could be disrupting something by adding this liquid when you have anything energized. So make sure you don't add a lot, because it has to evaporate before you can put your bulb in to see if it works. But this is a really good one. WD-40 makes one also. There's like 3 others, but this is safe to use. It's one of the most popular ones out there. But check your sockets, look at them, get a flashlight, get on your reading glasses, and check the socket. Make sure it looks in really good shape, and clean it if necessary. Number 3 is verify the fuses are working, that they're not burnt, and also make sure you have the right fuses, and also make sure that somebody didn't put in the wrong fuses somewhere. Or sometimes you have an empty slot that's supposed to be empty, and people will pop a fuse in there, and it can just rewire your system. I had one time an issue on my Volkswagen a long time ago. I put in the wrong size bulb, had two filaments instead of 1, or vice versa, and then when I put my foot on the brake, the horn would blow. So when you check your fuses, get out your schematic for your user manual to see what fuse goes where, and make sure you have the right type of fuse, and make sure the right fuse are in the right places. You don't have something stuck in somewhere it shouldn't be, and everything is good. And you should be able to also look at your user manual, find out where all of the fuses are related to your relay, your brake lights, and your turn signals are in your car. Number 4, you want to check the wiring, make sure it's not frayed or cut. Also, wherever you have a place where a wire flexes, like in the trunk where it moves back and forth, or the doors, you make sure that something isn't being bent and now it's broken because it flexes so often. And also, when you check the wiring, look at the individual plastic parts to your wiring harness and to your light fixtures, because when the cars get old, plastic is brittle. When you slam the trunk down, and everybody does it, you're really going to jar a part of the car that never gets jarred, and like the rest of the car. So you're really putting a lot of damage to your plastic in the back. And when you slam the trunk, check out those parts where the wires go into the housing that holds the bulbs, and make sure things aren't broken and brittle and frayed and snapped into pieces like I've seen happen before. So that's an excellent place to look for a problem for your wiring. Stuff that blinks and flashes, it's controlled by a relay unit or a flasher. It controls your blinking, so find out where that's located, and you can test it with a multimeter. And they're relatively inexpensive at the auto parts store. The problem is, if you're not sure if that is a problem, when you purchase electronic items at the auto parts store, they won't let you return. So you have to be sure that's what you want to get when you go there, and not just be guessing, which I've done many times. If your hazards aren't working, sometimes the hazard switch not working can also affect your turn signal, because sometimes they're like on the same unit. So you're going to need somebody to be behind you checking when you're inside the car, or else use a mirror or use a camera or something so it's recording what's happening. Get your hazard switch and twist it back and forth, because sometimes it's just dirty and the connections, because you don't maybe use it very often. So just wiggle it a lot. Also, when you're wiggling it back and forth, you can see if you're getting lights coming on and off. There could be like a loose connection. So that's a simple way to check your hazard switch. If you've checked all of these things, the last thing is your the control unit, the BCM. In modern cars, the BCM is everywhere. They have a ton of them, the different modules, and those things can cause a big problem. But you want to check these other things first, because you're going to need a special diagnostic tool to test that, and I don't know how to tell you to do that. But that would be like number 7 on the list you could check. The last thing is you could get the schematic and see where everything is connected. But if you know how to do that, you're not going to be listening to this video anyway. You would have already gone through these first 7 things and not even listened to this video. But that would be the next step, and that's generally what an electrician for your car is going to be doing. He's going to look at the schematic and see if there's something special about your wiring and the harness that goes to your flashers and your turn signals and your brakes. So those are 8 things. If my brake and my flasher and my turn signals weren't working. But what if my brakes are working in the back, but my turn signals don't work and my flashers don't work? So that narrows it down quite a bit. The rear brake lights and the turn signals and the hazards, they're kind of all shared on the same circuit in the back. So, but if the brake lights are working, number 1 thing I would look at is the turn signal switch. If your turn signal switch is faulty, it just might be sending power to the front and not the back. So that would be something I would look at first. You're going to have to test it with the multimeter. And I'm pretty sure there's videos on YouTube showing you how to test your turn signal switch with the multimeter. The second thing I would check would be, once again, the wiring. Check the wiring harness, especially where places where wires are flexed, like in the trunk or the doors. And once again, I would check the flasher relay. They're fairly inexpensive, but if you can check it before you buy one, that would be a really good thing to check. Number 4 would be a poor ground connection. Sometimes the brakes could have a separate ground connection than the flashers and the turn signals. So find out where the ground connection is for the flashers and the turn signals, and check it, make sure it's okay. Because like I said, it could be separate from the brakes, and that would be the answer to your solution right there. And next, you want to once again have your body control modules, BCM, checked out. That could be the culprit. And those things are everywhere. They're usually in some place you can't get at, and you need a special tool. When you're testing with your multimeter for your sockets, one of the first places you want to check, if you take the bulbs out, you can check to see if there's power coming into that socket. So if there's no power getting to your socket, then you know the problem is upstream. It's not at the actual socket or the bulb and so on. To test your ground connection, you would just use a multimeter to test to see if you have a ground connection. And lastly, just have someone toggle the switches when you're in the back of the car so you can see what's going on. Sometimes when you have someone toggle the turn signal switch, if you're in the back there, you can see where it flickers, it comes on just a tiny bit, and that's all you need to know. If it's coming on just a tiny bit and then it's not working anymore, you know it's the turn signal. So if your brakes are working in the back but not your flasher or your turn signal, it's going to be the ground for the wires, the turn signal switch, or the flasher relay. And in some cases, if you're unlucky, it's going to be the BCM. So hope that helps. The reason I'm making this video is because like a year ago I made a video like 12 ways to find out why your turn signals aren't working, and people keep asking me over and over different questions. One of the most popular questions I keep getting is, well, what if they're working in the front but not in the back? So I thought I would make this video for those people. So hope this helps, and good luck to everybody out there. The price of car electronic technicians, we need all the luck we can get. All right, guys, take care. See you out there.